Apple Knocker Radio.
Sternvall family? Sternvall? Sternvall. Yeah, let's touch on that because that touches on Gurdjieff, and I'm a very big fan of Gurdjieff, and I know a lot of people that follow this channel are fans of Gurdjieff. So could you just talk a little bit about that family and their relationship to Gurdjieff?
Yeah, sure. Leonid, Elisaveta, and later Nikolai de Sternvall. The Sternvall family was a noble family. They were very coming from a noble background, very like a high-level society. Leonid was a doctor. Elisaveta was basically just a housewife. They started to follow Gurdjieff in St. Petersburg in the beginning of last century, and Leonid has his practice. It was both kind of in Finland and on the Russian side of the border. The border was back then more to the east than what it's now, but they met in St. Petersburg and get involved with Gurdjieff groups, and back then Gurdjieff groups also, and Gurdjieff himself met the Sternvalls and I guess other Finns who were interested also on the Finland side of the border where it was back then. My guess is that nowadays, where this famous meeting, for example, between Gurdjieff and P.D. Ouspensky, where was this famous telepathical communication, I think that if we look where it was on the map, probably on the nowadays map, it would be on the Russian side, on this Karelia area, which back then still belonged to Finland, but we lost it later. But it was in this area where there were held meetings in St. Petersburg and around it here and there. Then, of course, the situation started to change in Russian Empire, and Gurdjieff smelled that something was in the air. He, of course, knew pretty well what the political climate was like and had connections inside like a political circles too, and so he decided to leave the country and gave a hint also for this Sternvall family that liquidates all that you have and leave the place, like there's going to be like a hard times to anybody who stays. So hesitantly they did turn part of their property into money and started to follow Gurdjieff. They had this exodus that started basically from St. Petersburg and went through the Black Sea area and all around here and there, finally ending up in France in this place where they founded the Institute for the Harmonious Development of Man. And the Sternvall family was part of this whole story, this whole traveling around Europe, and finally establishing the institute in France. Leonid was the oldest of Gurdjieff's pupils, and he was also said to be one of the most kind of fanatical, if you want, like he really was diehard about the ideas. And so their son, Nikolai, this is interesting side story to the story. Like apparently Leonid and Elisaveta, they had some problem getting a biological child themselves. So they asked if Gurdjieff could come to help, which he happily did. and out of this helping hand, or should I say organ, came Nikolai de Sternvall. Leonid and Elisaveta brought him up as their own son, but the biological father was Gurdjieff. And he was also, Nikolai, one of the few children that Gurdjieff himself mentioned by name during his lifetime, that this is my son, I'm his biological father. There was 5 or 6 others that he mentioned by name. And Nikolai later wrote this memoir, my daddy Gurdjieff, Father Gurdjieff, a very, very interesting memoir of the Stjernvall family's like adventures in time with Gurdjieff around Europe and in France, of course. It's something that haven't come that often up. Of course, like people who are very interested in the Gurdjieff saga, the whole history of his ideas and his lives, they know these figures they have come up with here and there. But in general, like the Stjernvall family has been quite unknown. So this, of course, needed to be in our book because they were only known people who were that closely involved with Gurdjieff during his lifetime. After the Stjernvalls, there's been Gurdjieff groups in Finland since the late 60s. First, there was this group that was based on Bennett, this British student of Gurdjieff, and nowadays we have kind of Gurdjieff line of teaching that came 2001 to Finland, and there's also another group. So interest to these ideas have continued here, but the first historical, like a proof of Finnish people being involved with the movement, they come all the way back to Gurdjieff's time.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting with that Stjernvall family that they also met Rasputin. It's like, how many people get to meet Gurdjieff and Rasputin? You know?
Yeah, not too many. That's wild. That's real wild.
Yeah, you get to meet like two of the most famous mystics ever. You know, that's amazing. It's got to give you an interesting perspective on life.
Right. Yeah, that's true.